Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize-winning economist and New York Times columnist. He's in Princeton, New Jersey this morning. Hope you're fading the heat well there, Paul.
Yeah, it's okay for now.
You really startled me last week with your column where you wrote, "We are now, I fear, in the early stages of a third depression." And I think a lot of people at home are wondering, how could this get any worse? What would a depression look like?
What a depression would look like is mostly something like what we're in now, but going on and on and on. So we're not talking about bread lines, we're not really talking about 1930s. We're talking something like the long depression of the 19th century, where you keep on having, the recoveries are brief, they don't feel like recoveries, then there's another recession, unemployment stays high, and just persists, and unfortunately that's what I think we're heading for.
So at the same time you're writing this column, President Obama and Fed Chair Ben Bernanke are agreeing that the economy is strengthening. You're saying that's not necessarily incompatible with a long
Right, you can have a
depression.
little, we talk a lot about Japan, which had its lost decade in the 1990s. Most of that was not technically a recession. During most years, the Japanese economy was growing, but never enough, and then it slid back into another recession. So we're talking about something which, where people like the president will say, well, the economy is recovering, but everybody out looking for jobs will say, where? I don't see it.
So let's engage this debate about what to do about it. You've made no secret about the fact that you believe that there should have been more stimulus spending before, and there should be more now, despite the political difficulties. Here's an argument I heard from one administration official on the other side. They said basically what the business community needs to hear right now is that Washington is going to stop, and that will give them the reassurance they need to spend all that cash they've been building up.
I call this believing in the confidence fairy. You believe that you actually do things that will mean less demand, less spending power, less consumer, spending, less actual reason for businesses to invest, but because they think it's over, they will invest. There's no reason to believe that's true. If you actually talk to business people for real about why they're not investing, they'll say, well, why should we invest? We have factories that are not operating at full capacity. There isn't demand for our products. There's no reason to invest now. What they need is more, not less from the government.
But how can that be in the face of, like you're saying, more from the government, more stimulus spending, but there has been now more than a year and a half of incredibly cheap money from the Fed. Why isn't that enough?
Well, because if you're you're a business, you're thinking about installing new equipment in your factory. The interest rate is not a big factor there. The main question is, am I going to use this stuff? So if we have a situation where the economy has been crippled by a financial crisis, which we haven't fully recovered from, where consumers are cautious because they just saw the value of their houses plunge, business is not going to invest until they see real reason to believe that we have a solid recovery. So what we're doing now is we're saying, well, no, we're going to wait for the business to invest. We're going to wait for them to take confidence in the austerity of the federal government. It's not going to happen.
Yet at the same time, you have a lot of people at home saying government is just spending way too much. The Congressional Budget Office said that this year, the debt is going to be 62% of our economy, the highest it's been in a long time. How much does that factor into your thinking? Isn't that something we have to worry about?
Yeah, it is something we have to worry about, but it's something you want to worry about. Something you want to worry about now, but you want to deal with once the economy has recovered. It's a very self-defeating thing. If you try to cut spending now while the economy is depressed, you make the economy even more depressed, and actually you make it, if anything, harder to deal with the debt problem. So it's something you want to deal with after the economy has recovered. It's a real case of penny wise, pound foolish here. Austerity now is not the answer. Dealing with our long-run budget problems, dealing with the cost of Medicare, looking for additional revenue sources, fine, but not stint on unemployment benefits in the middle of this terrible situation.
And we only have a few seconds left, but your bottom line seems to be that the economy is not going to get better on its own.
That's right. No, certainly you can't count on it. That's a terrible leap of faith. That is a leap of faith at the expense of 15 million unemployed Americans.
Okay, Paul Krugman, thanks very much.
Yeah.